super strict, and Tom Hutchinson. So again, it was kind of, it depended who the leadership was. Some people enforced things well, some people didn't. And when they enforced things well, since people weren't used to it, there's a lot of people that end up being kind of upset because of it. As a response to, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna wait for this text.
Where are you?
No. I'm going to Target. I'll be there at 8:40. We got 10 minutes bonus time. 7:40, my bad.
Oh, I was going to say, that's a long time.
And then I'll be worried because you're spending lots of money. So, all right. So what's passed in response to what happened with the Intolerable Acts? And what were kind of some key components of that?
Like the taxes on the shut down Harbor.
Okay, yeah, probably the worst thing is they closed down Boston Harbor, which for the people of Massachusetts, that was like their everything. Also, something else happened about the same time, Quebec Act, right. And basically, what did that allow in kind of the western part of the colonies?
Oh, like
the French Catholics could go ahead and practice Catholicism,
yeah.
And they saw that as a real slap in the face to them, like, wow, you're actually helping the French more than you're helping us. And keep in mind, too, that, you know, France and Britain were exactly best of friends. What happens and then what's the response to another term that they use sometimes is the coercive acts for the intolerable acts. If you see, that's the same thing. What happens in response to the intolerable acts? What do the colonies do? No, we've had the Boston Tea Party already. First Continental Congress is formed.
Okay.
Yes, after the first shots. All right, at that point, they denounce this, and basically, they do make some preparations about war, because they realize that something might happen. Did we watch The History of Us last night? They talked about that a little bit.
last night?
Yeah.
Oh, I
don't know. I watched
Wait, what?
The History of Us on the History Channel.
Is that the one on
channel? I recorded that.
Is that
I'm
the one on
watching
the
it on
Revolution?
Sunday. Yep.
Nice, nice.
That's
It's
the
our
one
way
on
of
the
studying.
Revolution?
Nice. What's that?
The one on the Revolution was last night?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I already watched that one.
Yeah, they just had a repeat. Okay,
Yeah.
anyway, let's keep
You're
moving
talking
on.
about them hiding all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I saw some of that. Okay, so anyway, First Continental Congress takes place, and anyway, the first shots are fired at where?
Lexington and Concord?
Actually, Lexington. Because they're on their way to go to Concord. I don't remember if that's right. Yeah, they're on their way to go to Concord because that's where all the munitions were. And on the way, and of course the militia group, the Minutemen from Massachusetts, were the ones that fought on them, or fought against them. Around the same time, I think it was 1775. Obviously, blood has been shed, people have died, things are tense. But there's a part I'm sure the colonists are going, oh my gosh, we're a bunch of farmers, we're going to go ahead and fight the world's strongest army. So they made one last attempt. It was called the Olive Branch Petition. Kind of, olive branch usually is like a symbol of peace. And they made one last attempt like, hey, we're okay if you want to just kind of let it go. We've had some bad times, but if we'd like to have peace if possible. But we just want you to kind of respect our rights. And they kind of had their thing. And at that point, the British government's like, no way. You basically killed our people, you're not listening to us, that's not even a possibility, we've gone too far. Alright, so anyway, some of the major battles that took place, you had the Battle of Bunker Hill. What was true of that particular battle? Who won?
The British.
The British won. However, what was a positive thing for the colonists?
They did
Well, that's
better
a lot
than
more.
they thought.
They did better than they thought, yeah. It was kind of a moral victory. And basically they ran out of ammunition, but the fighting in itself actually was really, really good. So at Bunker Hill, then we have some fighting kind of up more like in upper New York, like Lake Champlain, Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys, some of those areas. And I should mention this, we mentioned this before, bloodshed took place, and then what was formed after that as a response to it, said it before? Second Continental Congress. And obviously at that point they have to go ahead and get some kind of military thing set up, and that's when we put George Washington in charge of our military. Also, what do we do in Second Continental Congress meets in Philly in May of 1775, and then the next year, after we made a few reached out a few times to hopefully maybe repair the damage. What do we do to really kind of say Declaration of Independence? And obviously strong separation at that point, and at that point there's kind of no turning back. Okay, some of the fighting that took place, probably, what was probably the low point in the Revolution? The English take over what major city? No, New York City. Take over New York City. At that point, we start to see like the amount of troops go down pretty dramatically. And things kind of pick up again. The Battle of Trenton takes place. They go across the Delaware River into Trenton. And actually they fought British soldiers there, but who else did they fight there? Yeah, Hessians, which the German mercenaries. All right, some other things. And then he also wins like at Princeton, some of those things. We have a very difficult winter at Valley Forge in Saratoga. Saratoga, you could probably say, was probably the turning point of the war. That was in 1777. Sure I have that right, 1777? Yes, October 1777.
What did you say right before Saratoga? Like in the same sentence?
Valley Forge.
Oh, Valley Forge.
Valley Forge, a couple key things as well. And after the Battle of Saratoga, who comes to our aid? The French do. Trust the French. All right, some of the more vicious fighting toward the end of the war takes place down south. The feeling was they're going to have success, and actually it was the Patriot. Things took a lot longer down than they were supposed to. They were supposed to basically destroy the South, come up to the north, and have this massive army together. But the fact that things were so difficult in the South made things difficult overall.
You mean for the British, right?
For the British, we're talking, yeah. Was there a key battle sort of in the southern part of the colonies? No. Somebody said it before. Yorktown.
Oh.
Where is that?
That's in Virginia.
Oh.
That was in 1781. And at that point, Cornwallis surrendered there. And the Treaty of Paris takes place in 1783. Remember, there's two treaties of Paris, right? There's a Treaty of Paris in 1783. And there's a Treaty of Paris in 1763. That one ended the French Indian War. 1783 ended the Revolutionary War.
Paris was just so peaceful, and then the French Revolution was, of course.
Yes.
Or after it.
And things went all crazy.
Or after it.
Okay, a few things about it. The western boundary was set all the way to the Mississippi River, even though you still had, and again, we've talked about this before. Of course, we were independent, and that was a significant thing. But really, when do we really become independent? After what war? What's that?
No idea.
1812.
War of 1812. Because really, you think, we don't have too much more time to talk about it, but we still have all this problem with like impressment, like they're taking over our ships. We have all these forts in the west that are Indians are being supplied by the British. It's like they don't really respect us, and they're just kind of ticked off they lost. Kind of like, we surrendered, but meanwhile, we're not going to really respect you. That would almost be the ultimate kind of insult, like, okay, you're independent, but at the same time, we don't really respect what you're about. All right, so at this point, the Second Continental Congress was the main governing body. They have to come up with some other kind of document. No, before that. Articles of Confederation. And overall, what is a Confederate, and I think a Confederacy, what is true of a Confederate type of government? Who has the most power? The states have the most power. And the thing that they still had to deal with in America, most people, a lot of people anyway, thought of themselves more as being like from a state than being like an American. They still were sort of in that mindset a little bit. And the view kind of, and it also what was the fear that would happen? There's a lot of people, kind of the Federalists and more of the law and order people, they probably realized we need to have a stronger central government. But their fear was if we had a stronger central government, what would the people say?
Like a king.
Yeah, it's like a king. So they're very hesitant to have a president or a king or have one leader. So in some ways, even though it didn't really work very well, it was almost the best thing that could happen. Because if they had jumped into something else, people would have probably went crazy. What was that 8-year period